Even if you're not into gambling or casinos, chances are you've seen at least a few iconic movies about them. The theme is always the same: where there's big money, there's an even bigger urge to steal it. The idea sounds crazy at first. After all, casinos are supposed to be smart, secure places, right? Well, not always. Sure, cheating a casino today is a lot harder than it was 100 years ago, but it's still possible. Every year, hundreds of thousands, sometimes even millions of dollars quietly disappear from gambling floors. This video is about the people and crews who pulled off those heists without ever firing a shot. Legendary scammers, math geniuses, and hustlers so slick they inspired movies and TV shows. Though you'd be wise not to follow in their footsteps. We'll break down the tricks they used, try our hand at card counting, and see how someone once made $1 million with just a piece of wire. And if you stick around until the end, you'll learn a few tricks that casinos use against us. Hopefully, I won't end up on some international casino blacklist after this. But just in case, it's worth saying up front, this video is for entertainment purposes only. Gambling, especially online, can be addictive and harmful to your financial and mental health. Before we dive into stories of legendary hustlers and casino con artists, let's lay some groundwork. What exactly is gambling, and how is it engineered inside a casino? Without that foundation, the tricks you'll see later in this video might feel a lot less impressive than they really are. There are many ways to chase that thrill in a casino. The simplest one? Slot machines. These are pure chance. You place your bet, press a button, stare at the screen, and hope 5 random images line up just right and spit out some cash. That's it. No control, no strategy, just luck. Roulette works about the same. Mathematicians have already crunched the numbers. Bet on red or black, your odds are roughly 47%. Bet on a row, that's about 31.5%. Going for zero, just under 3%. And then you cross your fingers and watch the croupier spin the wheel. Same logic applies to horse betting, bingo, the Wheel of Fortune. All of them run on chance. You're not really playing, you're just watching and hoping. Luck, randomness, and blind fortune run the show. A 5-year-old could walk into a casino and outplay a seasoned gambling addict in these kinds of games. But there's one category where the player actually gets some control. Card games. Luck still matters, but unlike roulette, you get to manage risk. Take poker. It's not just a gambling game. It's a full-on sport with leagues, federations, and professional rankings. Even Magnus Carlsen, the world's top chess player, is a fan. So why is poker considered a sport and roulette just a risky pastime? First, tactics. Say someone shoves all in. You've got to decide fold and play it safe or risk it all. Second, skill. Not just reading people's faces, but understanding odds and probabilities. If you've ever watched a poker broadcast, you've seen the on-screen stats showing each player's chance of winning. What separates a rookie from a pro is how well they can calculate those odds and how smartly they act on them. But there's one game where you can take luck by the throat. Blackjack, also known as 21. We'll go deeper into the rules and the cheating techniques in a bit. For now, let's ask, what's the biggest difference between poker and blackjack? In poker, you're playing with a single deck. But in blackjack, especially on the casino floor, you're up against multiple decks, all stacked inside a device called a shoe, which the dealer draws from. Usually there are 4 to 8 decks shuffled together. Why? Because of probability. If 7 players are going against the dealer using just one deck, eventually they'll figure out what cards are left. More face cards or fewer? But with 8 decks in the shoe, the dealer's edge skyrockets, even against a whole squad of players. And that brings us to the term house edge. That's the casino's built-in advantage, expressed as a percentage of your bet. If the house edge is 2% and you bet $1,000, you're expected to lose $20 over time. If it's 5%, your loss climbs to $50. Sure, you might hit a jackpot on your very first spin and walk out a winner. But that's fantasy. In the long run, the math catches up. Simulations run millions of times show the same truth. The longer you play, the closer you get to the casino's expected profit. That phrase, "the house always wins," it's not just a cliche, it's mathematical fact. On slot machines, the house edge can range from 10% to 20%, depending on how greedy the developers and casino owners are. There are basically no games where players consistently win over the long haul. Almost none. Except blackjack. There, the house edge is just 0.5%. That means for every $100 bet, you're only expected to lose 50 cents. Compared to slot machines, that's a massive difference. But blackjack is special not just because of the low edge. With enough persistence, skill, and discipline, it's the one game where you can actually turn the tables on the casino. One of my all-time favorite movies is Rain Man. The main character, played by Dustin Hoffman, is on the autism spectrum, and that turns out to be a major advantage when he and Tom Cruise walk into Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. Hoffman's character counts cards, not just one or two decks, he's tracking up to 6 at once with perfect precision. So why does blackjack use a shoe with multiple decks? Simple. If you only had one deck, it'd be pretty easy to figure out which cards are left. The dealer's got one card showing, each player's got 2 or 3, and suddenly you know 20 out of 52 cards. From there, predicting what's left in the deck isn't rocket science. But wait, can't you still make those predictions even with a 6-deck shoe? Especially if it's halfway empty and there are lots of players at the table? Absolutely. That's where card counting comes in. The concept is pretty straightforward. Using a simple algorithm, you estimate which cards are left in the shoe. The fewer cards remaining, the more accurate your guesses get. And if your count is positive, odds are the shoe still holds a bunch of high cards, meaning the dealer is more likely to bust. Sounds simple, right? But there's a catch. You have to play perfect blackjack while doing all this mental math. That means knowing exactly when to hit, stand, split, double down, and all while counting cards in your head. One mistake in your count, even by a single digit, can wreck everything. All this effort just to flip the house edge from a 0.5% advantage in their favor to a tiny edge in yours. The most common system players use is called high-low. Every card is assigned a value, +1, -1, or 0. You keep a running total in your head as the cards come out. The higher your count, the more high cards remain in the shoe, which means it's time to start betting big. The first version of this method dates back to the early 1960s. It was developed by an American professor named Edward O. Thorpe on an ancient computer that looked like it belonged in a museum. When he published his findings, his book became an instant bestseller and basically the blackjack player's Bible. I'm convinced Thorpe also invented some kind of anti-aging serum. The man's 91 years old and looks like he could still hit the tables. Now let's bust a few myths people still believe about card counting, thanks in part to Rain Man. Myth number 1, you have to be some kind of autistic savant to count cards. Nope, all it takes is concentration and practice. Seriously, even a high schooler could learn it. You're just assigning +1, -1, or 0 to each card. If you practice the mental math like you would Sudoku puzzles, you'll improve faster than you think. Myth number 2, it's insanely profitable. In the movie, Tom Cruise and Hoffman turn a few $1,000 into nearly $100,000 in one night. Real life? Not even close. If everything went by the math, they'd walk out after hours of play with maybe $20 in profit on a $2,000 bankroll. Statistically, they could just as easily lose all of it. Card counters lose just like everyone else. Even if they play flawlessly, they still have to deal with bad luck. And when you've been counting for hours, tracking cards, calculating hands, remembering optimal moves, and you're still down $1,000, your brain starts to fry. You make one mistake, then another, and suddenly you're broke and explaining yourself to your partner back home. Myth number 3, you can just walk into a casino and start counting. Watch this Rain Man clip.
There's lots of them?
Lots and lots of them.
Hold on here for a second. I'm gonna double down.
Queen, queen.
Know what would have happened in real life? The second Dustin Hoffman showed signs that he knew what was left in the shoe, security would have thrown them out on the spot. Card counting is the cardinal sin in the world of gambling. And the most famous card counting team in history. Yes, the one full of math students learned that lesson the hard way. The biggest challenge for card counters isn't the math, it's doing it without getting caught. You have to smile at the dealer, chat with other players, maybe flirt a little, drink like everyone else, but without ever losing focus. And above all, don't look like you're counting anything. So what happens if you do get caught? In the best case scenario, the casino limits your bet size. That way, even if the shoe is air quotes hot and full of face cards, you can't increase your wager to cash in. In the worst case, they won't cash out your chips and they'll ban you from playing blackjack or from entering the casino entirely. And if the pit boss is anything like Robert De Niro in Casino, you're really out of luck. Now wait, how is this fair? Counting cards doesn't break any actual laws. You're not using a device, not marking cards, not peeking at the dealer's hand, just pure mental math. You're just a better player, someone with a sharper sense of the game. No one finds a chess grandmaster for thinking 10 moves ahead, right? Well, casinos see it differently. In their world, card counting breaks the one sacred rule: the house always wins. Legally speaking, card counting is 100% allowed. In 2000, the Nevada Supreme Court even forced a casino to pay a card counter $40,000 they had tried to confiscate after a big blackjack win. Back in the mid-1970s, 5 students from MIT thought they were safe too. Card counting was still an underground thing, known mostly among hardcore gamblers and insiders. Casinos had heard of it, but had no real tools to fight it, apart from spotting solo players and kicking them out. But here's the thing. Most self-proclaimed counters were amateurs, degenerate gamblers who thought they could beat the house, but ended up losing everything. Naturally, casinos welcomed these guys with open arms. The MIT students weren't like that. They memorized Thorpe's book down to the last detail, pooled together $5,000, and if the legend is true, turned it into $20,000 within a few months. Sounds wild today. But back then, the tech was primitive. Cheating the system was just easier. Eventually, the original team fell apart, but one guy, Jay Massar, kept going. In 1980, by pure chance, he met a guy named Bill Kaplan, a fellow counter from Harvard. They hit it off, teamed up, and decided to go all in. Blackjack became their full-time job. The first thing they did was standardize their strategy. Everyone used the high-low counting system to minimize mistakes. Second, they moved to team play. You could rake in way more money by working together. Here's how it worked. One player sits at the table just watching and counting cards, like a scout. When the shoe gets hot, lots of face cards left. He signals a teammate who steps in with a big bet and scoops up the win. Third, they ran the whole thing like a startup. Even playing with 5-figure bets, the profit margins were too thin. So they pitched their scheme to investors looking for $1 million in capital. They framed it like a money printing machine, with annual returns between 4% and 300%. Not bad for a college side hustle. Casinos were used to solo counters, but not professional crews. In the early 90s, Las Vegas was booming again. Giant hotels, flashy new casinos, dozens of small joints opening up every year. It was the perfect environment for the MIT crew. If one place banned you, 3 more were across the street. At its peak, the MIT team had nearly 100 members. Starting in 1992, they launched an all-out assault on casinos across the US and even overseas. At least 30 players were active on any given day. How much money did they make? No one knows for sure. Some say $5 million, others claim up to $50 million. But it couldn't last forever. Casinos finally caught on to the team tactics. Members were flagged, blacklisted, and banned. New recruits lasted shorter and shorter before getting noticed. The group disbanded 29 years ago. Some members got day jobs, others became activists, some went into real estate, and a few built entire legends around their exploits. The biggest myth? The book Bringing Down the House by Ben Mesrick. He loves telling tales of rogue traders, crypto bros, and yes, card counters. But more than half the book is fiction, despite being marketed as nonfiction. The book became a bestseller overnight, and Hollywood jumped on it. The movie 21, starring Kevin Spacey, was born. The film took even more liberties, changing names, inflating the drama, rewriting history. The result? A legend that card counting leads to millions and only geniuses can do it. Today, the MIT team is part brand, part casino, urban myth. But the idea of card counting never went away. While working on this video, we found at least 5 self-proclaimed counters, some claiming ties to MIT, offering to teach card counting for free. Projected income, $25 an hour. But every year, counting gets harder. Casinos fight back with tech. First, automatic shufflers. These mix the cards constantly, making counting almost impossible. Then there's RFID chips, like the ones in store tags or your key fob. Casinos use them to track betting patterns in real time. If you're betting weirdly, they'll notice. And of course, blacklists still exist. In China, where facial recognition is everywhere, it's even easier to block too smart customers. Let me play devil's advocate for a moment. Here's how casinos see it. Gambling is about luck. Most players understand the odds are against them, but they still play, just for the thrill. Card counting ruins that vibe. It's cold, methodical, robotic. Sure, you memorize combos and beat the system. Congrats. But where's the fun? Most people come to lose, and they enjoy it. Second, casinos are private businesses. Don't like the rules? Go play somewhere that allows card counting. Spoiler alert, those places don't exist. And lastly, the real reason casinos hate counters: money. According to Nevada's official report, Vegas casinos earned $1 billion from blackjack last year alone. With a house edge of just 0.5%, that means the total volume of blackjack bets hit $200 billion, more than the entire GDP of Hungary. Now imagine that edge dropping to 0.4%, just a fraction of a percent. That's a $200 million loss. And if enough players learn to count, the edge could flip entirely. Casino profits turn into losses. Bottom line, card counting isn't that hard, but it takes years of discipline, practice, and mental stamina. You can't hustle casinos like people did 40 years ago. And the truth is, card counting isn't some magical goldmine. It's tedious, slow, and grueling work. If you really want to beat the house, there are better ways. Like one involving a wire and a violin bow. That one can make you millions. As we've already established, slot machines are the absolute worst way to spend time in a casino if you care about winning. The odds of hitting the jackpot range from 1 in a million to 1 in 70 million. Madness. But casino owners love slots. They don't require human staff. Just plug in a few rows of machines and watch the profits roll in. Why do gamblers around the world love slot machines? First, low bets. Slots have the lowest entry cost, just $1 per spin, sometimes even a few cents. Second, instant gratification. You spin, and within a second you know if you've won or lost. No strategy, no boring math or counting like in blackjack. Third, pure engagement. You can physically touch the machine, press the buttons, pull the lever. That tactile feedback hooks people. Add in flashy animations, bright numbers, cartoon characters, crystals. There's a slot machine for everyone. No pushy dealers, just you and the machine. And fourth, psychological tricks. There's nothing more frustrating than almost winning. Maybe if that last monkey had landed 1 row lower, jackpot, but surely the next spin will do it, right? Slot machines exploit this and many other psychological biases to keep players glued to the screen. In the end, every gambler falls into what's called the gambler's fallacy. I've lost 5 times in a row, surely I'm due for a win. Statistically, nonsense. Each spin is independent, but most people don't know that or don't want to. But what if those odds could be changed? Get ready, this is one wild story. Let's rewind to the early 80s. Oklahoma, north of Texas. We're in a little TV repair shop run by Tommy Glenn Carmichael. A natural-born tinkerer, the shop wasn't just a job, it was his passion. By late 1980, Tommy's life was falling apart. Business was bad, competition was fierce, his marriage was crumbling, and he'd been sentenced to community service for drug possession. Then one day, an old school friend named Ray showed up. He brought a guitar string and a bent paperclip, tools he claimed could beat any slot machine. Tommy was skeptical but desperate. He gave it a shot, and it worked. The trick was simple. Close the right electrical contact and the machine would spit out a jackpot. Day one, $35. By the weekend, thousands. But Ray had scammed him. Casinos already knew about the paperclip trick. Within a year, most slots in Vegas had extra security. Tommy was forced to hit smaller gambling halls. That's where they caught him, tampering with a machine with the infamous paperclip in his pocket. Because he was still on probation, he got 5 years in prison. In prison, he met Michael Balsam, another slot hacker. Prison wasn't a second home for Michael, it was his first. He'd get out, hit the casinos, screw up, and go right back in. Tommy and Michael became friends. When they got out, they made a pact: invent a new way to beat the machines. While they'd been locked up, the world had gone digital. Slot machines were now run by microchips. The old tricks were dead. So Michael set up a fake company, ordered the latest slot machine, and for 6 months, the two of them took it apart. Wires, circuits, everything. Finally, they had it, the monkey paw. You'd insert it into the coin slot, trigger a payout, and the machine couldn't stop. Of course, they needed a cover. They always went in with glamorous women who'd block the cameras. In 1 hour, Tommy could clear $1,000, minus the cost of luxury dates. It was an arms race. Casinos countered with optical sensors. No more physical hacks. It took Tommy a year and 30 prototypes to invent the next device, the light wand. Different principle, same result. The light wand would blind the sensor, freeze the machine, and rain coins. It was a breakthrough. Tommy was the first person in the world to crack optical sensor slots, and the casinos, totally unprepared. They thought it'd take hackers a decade to break the new system, so they upgraded every machine in Vegas. Big mistake, the light wand worked on all of them. Tommy and Michael started building an operation. Scouts, security, decoys, cash collectors. On a good day, they could clear tens of thousands of dollars. And then Tommy got even smarter. During a gold rush, sell shovels. The light wand cost just $2.50 to make. On the black market, $10,000 a piece, a 400,000% markup. They sold like hotcakes. You could break even in 2 days. Estimates say Tommy cost Vegas casinos hundreds of millions. He had a mansion in LA, a Jaguar, a new girlfriend, no more ex-wife drama. He paid taxes on part of it, kept the rest in cash. When the FBI came hunting, Tommy disappeared into the desert, living in an RV, still inventing new hacks. But one day, he got sloppy. He showed up for a deal to sell a new device. Only the buyers were FBI agents. Michael had gotten drunk, blown his cover, and ratted out Tommy. Phone number, address, everything. The feds hit Tommy with every gambling-related fraud charge they could. But just like the Wolf of Wall Street, the law wasn't ready for a hacker this smart. Tommy cooperated, even helped develop new anti-hack systems for casinos. But there was one thing he couldn't dodge: the Nevada Black Book, a permanent ban from every Vegas casino. The man who'd spent his life in gambling halls could never enter one again, not even to play roulette. No one can beat the roulette wheel unless they steal the money right off the table while the dealer's not looking. That quote is often attributed to Albert Einstein, and it's mostly true. For your average player, beating roulette is impossible. Sure, you'll always find people claiming they know a secret system, but conveniently won't share it. Others behave like rats in a Skinner box, interpreting pure randomness as part of some hidden pattern. It's all in the dealer's hands, they'll say. It depends on the spin, the ball's momentum. If they happen to guess right, they'll claim their system works. If they guess wrong, they stay quiet. Most fall into the classic gambler's fallacy. 8 reds in a row, black has to be next. Sure, the odds of 8 reds in a row are 1 in 256, but nothing stops the ball from landing on red or 0 again. That's statistics. Like blackjack, there are strategies in roulette to minimize your losses. But the longer you play, the closer you'll get to that house edge. And that holds true unless you're a cheater. Let's break it down. The simplest way to beat roulette only works in ancient casinos with poorly maintained wheels. If the wheel is worn or unbalanced, it can subtly tilt to one side. That affects where the ball tends to land. Theoretically, you could stand by, watch for patterns, and bet accordingly, but that's slow, boring, and rarely effective. It's much more exciting when you can predict, better yet control, where the ball lands. Enter Monique Laurent. By all accounts, she was stunning, a true femme fatale. Born on Valentine's Day in 1948, we know little about her early life. But let's skip to the good part. In 1973, Monique's brother got a job as a croupier at a swanky casino in Deauville, on the Normandy coast. It wasn't long before he wanted to rob the place, so he turned to Monique for help. She was brilliant with electronics and came up with a genius plan. They would hide an electromagnetic receiver inside the roulette ball itself. With a signal from a transmitter, they could subtly slow the ball down, steering it to land where they wanted. The transmitter? Hidden inside a cigarette pack? Here's how the scam worked. Monique and her husband would approach the table where her brother was dealing. They'd quietly swap in the modified ball. The brother would spin the wheel and launch the ball. At the perfect moment, her husband would bet on 6 predetermined numbers. Monique, pretending to casually hold her cigarette pack, would trigger the device to slow the ball at the right spot. In 1 week, they took the casino for 5 million francs, nearly 40 million euros in today's money. The scam became known as the French cigarette pack. But greed got the better of Monique. Like many gamblers, she couldn't stop. Security had been watching. Her husband kept winning. Monique hovered near the table, chain carrying her cigarette pack, but never once smoked or placed a bet herself. Suspicious. Eventually, the guards closed in. They grabbed the pack, and everything was clear. Monique and her husband were arrested and forced to return their winnings. At least they didn't serve time. Her story hit the French newspapers and 10 years later was made into a movie called Tricheurs, Cheaters. By all accounts, a pretty good film. Monique didn't lose her love of casinos. After her exploits, she moved to Las Vegas, got a job as a mid-level manager at a clothing store, and after work, still liked to play a few games. Only this time, she was the one getting scammed. It's time to talk about the other side of cheating. Not scams like in the last chapter. This is something different. Imagine this. You don't know much about statistics. You decide to try your luck on the slots. And you hit the jackpot, $41 million. You rush to cash out, and they tell you, sorry, the machine was broken, no payout. It's happened. A 90-year-old grandmother from Illinois once hit the jackpot, casino refused to pay. The court sided with the casino. In 2016, a woman from New York hit a $43 million jackpot. She even took a selfie with the screen. Same story. Sorry, the machine malfunctioned. But hey, we'll comp you a free dinner. She sued, lost. The casino's expensive lawyers argued the machine was faulty. Stories like this are rare, but they do happen. Most big-name casinos won't risk their reputation over it. Far more money is made with subtler tricks. Casinos invest billions every year to keep people inside, playing. The first and simplest trick? No clocks, no windows. You can't tell how long you've been gambling, even if you have a smartwatch on. But that's just the surface. Every square meter of a casino is carefully designed to maximize profits. At the entrance, slot machines, or sometimes poker tables, usually slots. The goal? Get people playing immediately, even if they just wandered in or stopped by after work. The floor plan? A maze, not long hallways. The more you wander, the longer you stay, and the more you spend. Shopping malls use the same trick. Slots aren't just at the front. they're scattered throughout. And right in the middle, an inviting bar with cheap drinks, surrounded by even more poker tables. Low ceilings create an intimate, comfortable atmosphere, anything to make gamblers feel relaxed, like they're at home. Now, here's where it gets psychological. Casino layouts avoid sharp 90-degree angles. Straight corners trigger the brain to make decisive choices, like maybe it's time to leave. Smooth, flowing curves keep players in the zone. And it works. The designer who pioneered this saw attendance double after softening the corners. That's why you'll see first-time visitors stumbling out of casinos hours later, eyes wide, completely losing track of time. They thought they'd been inside for an hour, maybe 2. It's been 4. Even the carpets play a role. They're often ugly or hypnotic, so you don't look down. You keep your eyes up on the machines and tables. Retail stores use the same trick, but recently, another design philosophy has emerged, championed by designer Roger Thomas. Since the early 90s, many Vegas casinos have pivoted toward family-friendly vibes. Today, 1 in 5 Vegas tourists brings kids. People come not just to party, but to have a good time. The kids get dropped off at Disneyland-style play zones, while the adults stroll through the hotel lobbies lined with slot machines. That old maze with low ceiling strategy still works on hardcore gamblers. But for casual visitors with family, not so much. Thomas had a new idea. Go luxury. High ceilings, open, airy spaces, sophistication everywhere. When average folks feel like royalty, they enjoy themselves more, stay longer, and spend more. Thomas designed the Mirage and the Bellagio, 2 of Vegas's crown jewels. His work won multiple design awards and changed the future of casino interiors. Of course, there are many more tricks casinos use against us. Some I don't have time to cover here, and others, especially in online gambling, are still hidden behind corporate secrecy. By now, you probably understand what people really mean when they say the house always wins, the smartest way to approach a casino. Think of it like going to a store. You buy a loaf of bread, you get the bread. Same here, you're buying entertainment. You pay your money, you get your entertainment. Trying to outsmart the house or beat the odds? Don't bother. It won't work. Statistics will crush your hope for a jackpot. In fact, modern casino hotels, whether in Vegas or Macau, make less than half their revenue from gaming tables. The real money comes from hotel rooms, food, tours, drinks, shopping, and massages from Thai or Balinese pros. That doesn't mean casinos ignore cheaters. Quite the opposite. Every year, security only gets tighter. These days, it's a rough life for casino scammers. In blackjack, you've got automatic card shufflers and chip betting tokens. Casinos are also lowering payout ratios, raising the house edge. Every table is under its own dedicated camera. Even in poker, if you're winning too much, they'll start watching you very closely. And roulette? The balls are lighter and bouncier now, with rounded edges. Forget trying to predict where they'll land. Slot machines? Hardly any mechanical parts left, just advanced tech and complex algorithms. So far, no one's cracked them. But there is one exception I've been avoiding this whole video: the world of online casinos. And trust me, that's a whole other story. Hackers, neural networks, next-gen cheats. If you want me to cover that, let's hit 2,000 likes on this video. Simple as that. It's an easy way for me to see if you're interested in this topic. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. See you next time.